Hello, everybody, and welcome to Eye of Soul Radio. I am filling in today for Dr. Pat, so thank you very much, Dr. Pat. Have a great new year as well. I'm excited today because I have got a guest on that I know a lot of you are going to want to hear from. I actually kind of stumbled across them a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, on one of their Facebook Lives, and just felt very drawn and connected. So Spirit Walker Nicole and I joined one of their group readings that I'll have her talk to you guys about as well, and really just enjoyed the vibe and the energy and the insight and wisdom that they shared. It's all about evolution and growth for us. So I know I don't have all the answers. We know that we don't have all the answers. And so when we find people that we find this connection with, that has interests that we have, we definitely like to dive in and learn. This year gave us some obstacles, that's for sure. And I will be the first to say that I can't wait till she starts classes again next year. I even have a student of mine who wants to join me on this road as well. So that's really exciting. Today, I want to bring awareness to you, the listeners, you, the viewers, from a different perspective. A lot of you are tired of hearing me talk by the end of this year. I get it. But I wanted to bring someone in with some fresh energy, fresh perspectives. So I've got Marita, one who catches lightning with the path of Ish, coming on today. I follow her. I read her posts. She's going to give you all her information as well, so you guys can do the same. But a few posts lately have really caught my attention. And when I went in and meditated on it, my spirit guides were like, yes, this is information that we want our listeners, our viewers, our clients to hear. But hear from someone else. Because you know what? It's like that old adage, like, okay, so, mom tells you one thing. And so you're like, yeah, okay. And then you go to school and your teacher tells you the same thing. And you're like, oh, I should listen. And so that's kind of what they want, is they want that fresh perspective, that new energy. They want you guys to think outside of the box with someone else. So that's what we're going to be doing on today. I'd love to just dive right in because I've got a lot of stuff that I want to cover with you. So let's bring on Marita. Welcome for joining me today. And I would love for you to formally introduce yourself, because I can't go through the amount of titles that you have within your name and all of the things that you do. So explain to our listeners today what it is, who you are, and what you're all about. Join us.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. I'm praying that this connection stabilizes itself. I think Pele is up to her tricks here on the Big Island. So hopefully, Pele, please be patient with us today and let this communication go through. So my name is Marita, one who catches lightning with the path of Ish. I was born in Mexico City. I was chosen for medicine path before birth. And trained since I was born. Of course, you have your wayward years of like just, going out and doing your things and then realizing, that doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? You're on the wrong path. And so, so back, I've been doing this and kind of launching Path of Ish over the last couple of years when my teachers were finally like, you've been studying for 40 some years, you should probably do something about that. So we started. And so the path of Ish is the path of so Ish is the jaguar. So it's the Mayan symbol of the jaguar. And so a lot of what I post online is of the Mayan calendar. And the reason to do that is to get people in the circle. Right now, we're approaching the Gregorian end of the year of a calendar, and those calendars and the energetics of a lot of Western space and time are square related. And squares and in square energy, there are corners and you can hide. In the circle, you can't. And so this is about bringing all people into relationships with all parts of themselves and getting them into the energetics of circle and circleness. And that's why it's a different pace, and it's a different rhythm, and it's a different way of walking and being and understanding. And so I allow the Mayan calendar to help me uh, be that bridge between worlds, between traditions, to be able to have that energetics, to be able to help people.
I love it. I love it. And you know what hits me big is like you don't think of our calendar as that square, right? You just kind of almost think it's linear, like because it's January through December. And yet those corners, and how many of us have been hiding in these little nooks and crannies? And you look in a room, like I'm in my room right now, and I'm like, what's hiding in that corner, right? Even physical stuff. So I love that the way you've described the circle and how there is no hiding and it brings everybody together. Why do we form circles? You look at even from elementary school ages, we're not sitting in squares. When you go down to sit on the rug, you're in a circle. Why? Because you can't hide behind that person that's in back of you. So I love the way that's described. And I, would love to be able to use that describing things as now, because that just opens up a different perspective, and it opens up that line of communication to flow, which is just that beautiful part of it as well. It's funny here in San Diego, we haven't seen rain since April. And yes, you guys, I actually looked to see when the last time it rained. We had 4 whole inches in San Diego in April, and we've been in this dry spell. And the past 2 days it's been raining off and on. And I connect so well with night and rain and that energy. Like I just find that it's so therapeutic. It's releasing. I'll go out and stand out in the grass in bare feet and just let the rain wash over me and take what doesn't serve energetically my highest and best, anchor those roots in. And that's really what I did yesterday. Was I anchored in, and I really was connecting at a much higher level, putting that all into motion, and for me to reconnect to my purpose. So one of my favorite posts that you've done recently is your journey begins at the birth of your rainstorm. And I'm actually typing out all my notes last night with the door open as it's pouring down rain. And I'm like, okay, Spirit, thanks for acknowledging that this is like right on cue of what's supposed to happen. And I really love one of the quotes you put in there is, some ancients say they are tears of the wind. And that made me stop and think. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that quote and kind of that post and the purpose behind it?
So everything that I talk about and that I teach is relationships. So when we talk about wind or the elements or the circleness, it's about a relationship that you build and you learn. Therefore, I don't think of wind and fire as just objects or things or just elements, but beingness, right?
Mm.
Therefore, the wind as beingness, and it's perfect because right now it's really windy here, and we're actually in the Trecena of Ik, which is wind. So for 13 days, we've been feeling windy energy, right? That's why everything's kind of stirred up. And so this is talking, and it kind of alludes to that notion that the wind has tears, the wind has emotions, the wind moves in different ways. If you've been in a windy day, right, and then you have stillness, how does that make you feel? So a lot of what I teach is learn from building relationships to Mother Earth and to the elements, so that you can understand how to move about. When you're having wind in your mind, right, you'll hear a lot of people saying, from Asian studies, you have a windy mind. That means, how do I deal? What kind of wind is it? Is it a cyclone, right? Is it a windstorm? Is it the different things? And so just by studying and sitting and observing and being curious and asking and looking, how is the wind moving now? And then how is it in relationship to other things, to trees and to the tree beings? Look at how the trees navigate wind. Look at how that grass navigates wind. Look at how that horse is going crazy because it's too windy, or I'm going crazy because it's too windy. So then all of a sudden you can bring that into, let's say, the holidays and stress. Are you getting into a cyclone of a habit? and becoming part of it and getting swept away from things? Or can you step back and be like, ah, I can see it coming. There's Aunt Root, Judy with her emotions, and I can see it, be at peace because I have a good relationship with the wind inside of me and not add to it. Thank you, wind, for teaching me. Rainstorms also have an interaction with another element, which is water. So all of a sudden you have wind and water together, creating a relationship and watering with their tears, with their breath, and bringing new life. And so when you are feeling like you have not had enough rain, maybe the conversation is not even with rain, it's with wind. Wind, please bring the rain from the ocean. So then look into your relationships of change. Are you ready for change? Are you in a dry spell? Are you ready to be able to be friends with the ocean and the waters again? Or are you just going about your day drinking water and not thanking it or asking it to teach you or connecting to the water inside of you? Or even when you're going outside, one of the things, and I love that you talked about grounding, that I teach is coming from the tradition of asking for permission. Mother Earth, can you please give me the root necessary for this day, right? So I come at it from First Nations thought versus the Western idea of like, let's just drill down, find some oil. So a lot of what I teach is the energetics of coming to life with an open hand. Instead of trying to manage things and handle things, I got to get on top of things. I got to understand that. I got to control it. I got to control my mind. No, let your mind be what it needs to be and have a conversation with it. Learn from it. But there's so much effort and energy to control the windstorms and the rainstorms and not to deal with the nature outside of you or the nature inside of you. So
I love
when
that.
you can come to that relation that you are no greater or lesser than any being on this planet, then you can enter into a relationship with yourself where there's grace and mercy and acceptance and an honoring of things.
Those are key words: grace, acceptance, mercy, allowing ourselves to let go of the control. I know for me, when we are in the desert area, San Diego is more of that desert environment. The ocean that just calls to us. And so you'll just find, it doesn't matter what day, what time, what the weather is like. I think one of my favorite times when I can go out and meditate on the beach is winter, when it's quiet out here in San Diego and the wind picks up. And even though I've got my hood on and I can feel the wind, I can connect with the sand, I can go put my feet in the water still, I have the sun around me. So finding ways to fuel up. I drink a gallon of water a day. It doesn't seem to quench that thirst of what's actually missing, and following those moon cycles as well, because we are primarily water, and feeling that energy and being called out back out to that ocean and watching those tides and feeling that energy, I think for me personally is a way that I can connect on that level. And I like where you put, how can we connect to find where a rainstorm began so it can whisper to us the secrets of our souls? And I think people overcomplicate listening within. And we think that it has to be glorified by, let me get out my 6 white candles and I'm going to use these 14 crystals, but I'm going to put them in these corners, and let me get my sage, my incense, my oils, right? And by the time they get done, they forget what the whole purpose was. So for you, how do you go about that connection and listening so the secrets can be heard within?
Well, again, it comes down to relationship. If you're putting out candles and you don't have a relationship to light candles, how they were made, right? If you don't have a relationship to the crystalline nation and not balance it with the stone nation, then you're going to be unbalanced. So again, here's the thing: to not objectify the spiritual world and therefore not objectify yourself. There's this idea in Western society that everything is outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a conversation of value. And this is a very basic conversation that separates Western society versus First Nation society. And this is value, right? In Western society, colonization, I don't care what color your skin is, you have been colonized, right? And colonization tells you that your value and your worth is based on what you produce, the color of your skin, and what number you satisfy, right? There you can attain value, but then you add globalization, you add all these things, you're never enough. And that's the program. First Nation people, the Jewish community shares this as well. You are born, therefore you have value. You were born, you breathe, you have the same value as Pele, who is bursting on a volcano. The breathtaking beauty of that, the breathtaking beauty of the ocean and the depth of who they are. Trees, sequoias, all of these things are value, and you are value. Therefore, sitting with yourself is sitting with the oceans and the trees and all of the things. You are your destiny. The Mayans teach that we are born to forget. We have to remember. We have to forget all the conditionings that we're born into, the programs, and get back to our nature, our truth. You know, when people ask me, what's the path of Ish? I say, it's the path of radical self-love. And they go, how do I get there? I go, you sit with yourself. You get to learn about yourself. All of these ideas of, I want these, I want to study this, and I want this certification, this and this, and this idea of ascending, right? It's really about going in. It's about, can you sit with yourself and recognize that you are in a human suit with certain limitations like gravity, things like that. And understand that because you are breathing, you are enough. That you have value just because of your existence, not because of your doingness, but of your being. You are here to be a human being, not a human doing. And so sitting with yourself and just breathing. Thank you, Mother Earth, for allowing me to be your child. Thank you, wind, for refilling my lungs. I am home.
And I love how that kind of ties in. And I want to do the karmic section for the last half, because it is a bigger section that a lot of us do look at in a negative way, and it really isn't. But I love how this kind of takes it to, now that you're sitting with yourself and you're finally breathing and you're connecting and you're listening within, not to have the fear. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not control it, allow it. Fear, trepidation steps in, because sometimes people don't want to deal with what's deep down in there, what they need to see. And so then you're almost kind of rebuilding from your core, like in the post that you had talked about, and finding that piercing clarity as well. And so as they're sitting in that space, there's so many different ways. Some of us can't sit in complete silence. I have a lot of clients that cannot sit in that complete silence. So for me, it's music. I really connect on that level. And when I can get myself into that quiet space enough, then I can allow myself to kind of turn it off and then go within and let some of those thoughts kind of bubble up. And that's where my clarity comes in as well. For you, with that clarity part of it and kind of helping people when they can get into that space and let go of the control and really connect with their destiny, which I loved. We're all born into destiny. We're here for a reason. How do you work with people on getting them to acknowledge and find that piercing clarity? Because I think, again, it's so overcomplicated in our minds. Our conscious mind overcomplicates everything. And so trying to give people some of these easy tips that they can really start navigating through right now in order to get out of the square thought process and more into that circle thought process. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for hanging in with our technical difficulties. We're making a joke because if it happens again, I'm going to start tap dancing from like my 7-year-old age. I'm going to do some inner child work while I'm at it and some jazz hands. So welcome back, you guys. We are discussing all sorts of really interesting stuff today. And it's about our relationship within ourselves and within all the inanimate objects around us, and the elements, and putting it all together and getting a different perspective. So we kind of left off here at moving into kind of that, when we can sit with ourselves, when we can go within, and when we can really start to, I don't like the word process. I like the word to just kind of discover within and what we need to kind of pull up and out to continue on. Like you said, the destiny of our life. We were born in with destiny. All of us, we were all born equal. Now finding kind of that piercing clarity that you had posted about as well, and not having fear or trepidation put barriers up in doing that. So right before we all froze, what are some ways that you can kind of give suggestions to our listeners today about finding that piercing clarity and really being able to kind of go in and build from the core? And then we'll move right into kind of that ancestral karma and kind of help people understand how they can heal that as well to kind of make that full circle for today.
Perfect. Well, the first thing, and I love you said sitting with yourself and voices and things like that. Another thing that Western society has done is caused fragmentation. If you wanted to look at this from like a psychic warrior, you could, in the sense of divide and conquer. So how do we divide and conquer a human being? We separate the mind, tell it it's more important than the heart, tell it that it's more important than the essence and things like that. So separation is what you're up against, right? Mm-hmm. Again, this idea of dominating things. And so those two things are huge roadblocks to a lot of people that come to me who are not First Nation. I don't have any problems with that with First Nation people. None of that has to be discussed, because they just easily walk into the circle. So what you want to start doing is bringing all parts of yourself, right? And I start with just 3 breaths. And this is something we can do just right now. And I have people breathe in and out through their nose. It actually calms your vagus nerve down. And you bring your mind into this time, into this place. In and out through the nose. You bring your body into this time, into this place. In and out through the nose. And you bring your essence into this time, into this place. And you imagine yourself walking into all of these into a circle. Your mind walks into the circle, your body, and don't judge it. It might take them a bit. Why might be a straggler? Because one of the things that is central is that, and people say, why can't I manifest? Why can't I do this? Many a times you are at war with yourself. Your mind is doing one thing, right? I can't focus, your body's like having an ache in your back because you're sitting in a weird thing, and your essence is like la 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 la. Keep up, And so you're literally tearing yourself apart. So again, relationships, and in relationships, then there have to be rules and boundaries. Hey, mind, thank you so much for thinking. And again, speaking to your mind. I remember one time I was in a Bikram yoga class, right? One of those, you're like just sweating and you're just like trying to put your foot behind, like one of those things.
Oh yeah.
My mind wouldn't stop. And I was just like, oh my God. So I finally talked to it. I was like, what do you want? And it was like, oh, you're listening to me? And I was like, yes, but can you help me? You beautiful mind that has so much to say right now. I am trying to get my leg up in a weird way. I'm sweating. I'm about to fall. The body's on its own and I have a strong body. Can you help it? And the mind was like, yes, I will. Boom.
I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to the mind, create the boundaries for the mind. You don't hear us talk about that. It's creating boundaries that exist outside of us in order to not be affected by Aunt Judy's energy coming in, barreling in as that wind. And you're like, oh no, barriers, boundaries, let's do this. But when we actually set them within our mind and putting it all together, were you able to hit the pose? That's what we all need to know right now.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Jaime, sometimes what I tell some people is like, give your mind a speeding ticket. Hey, if it's moving too fast and it's leaving your body behind, give it a speeding ticket. These are the rules. You can only speed at 35 miles per hour. You can this is the relationship. If you want to have a relationship with me, mind, with the body, with the essence, there are rules, right? Would you like to engage? And what starts to happen is, first of all, you find what happens. There's a lot of mistrust. There's mistrust between the mind, between the body, between the essence. And then sometimes what's really interesting is that because we all come from different places, sometimes they don't speak the same language. So you need to bring in interpreters. This is why it's good to do with someone, right? And so someone will act as an interpreter, as a guide to be the interpretation and create a language that they all agree to speak and to listen and to be, right? We're not saying you got to touch each other, hug each other, sing kumbaya. I'm just like, can we be civil? Let's
Right.
start there. Can we acknowledge that we exist? Can we acknowledge that we might have different agendas and that we have different ideas of our importance? Again,
Mhm.
no greater or lesser. So that has to apply to your mind, your body, and your essence, right? Once you've got that figured out after a few years of that, then you add your subconscious, your sexuality, different parts that have been fragmented. But to sit in the circle with yourself and just you learn how you operate, because this is the thing, we are creatures. We have to learn about our habits, not to control them, but to be like, well, that's curious. That's curious. I had so many times I'll like yesterday, I was doing the dishes and I was a little tired, right? And so my mind decided to go on a rant on, I don't know, whatever. And I was like, oh, it's been a long time since you've done that. So I'm like talking to my mind, allowing it a little bit of a leash, and being like, let's see where we go with this. And being like, how much energy is that rant? Because rants can give us energy, right? Anger can give us energy, right? These
Mhm.
things that heighten us. How long is that going to last, Marita? And what I realized was like, oh, not for long. And so then we need another fix and another fix and a bigger fix and a bigger fix and a bigger fix. And that's why our mind races. It's trying to keep up with our fixes of I need more. I need more. Why? Because I'm not satisfied with myself.
Right.
Because I don't know that I have value. And so we get into these programs with ourselves to get more satisfaction because we also struggle with the idea of unease. This life is not supposed to be easy. It's not.
No.
That's a
Nope.
lie. Fake news there. And so, but many people and many religions teach that if you are struggling, you are in sin, therefore you're bad. If you're struggling, it's because this is how it is. Go out in nature. Nature's not quiet. Nature's not nice and airy sometimes. Sometimes there's things eating each other.
Mhm.
Sit down and look at the grass and you'll see a whole world open up and you're like, wow, look at that. That ant got into a fight with that beetle that got into, whoa, things are happening. So come with that knowingness, not in a sense of like, I got to fight everyone,
Right.
but of just like, okay, it's not supposed to be easy, but we can live with ease. We can choose to live with ease if we can sit with ourselves, build from the core and sit in their circleness and become that.
And that's where we gain the clarity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we start to see it and feel it. It's a big part too for people is they won't allow themselves to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sit with it, they'll acknowledge it, but then we have to move into that next layer of feeling. Then they're like, oh, feelings. No, like jazz hands go up. Not doing feelings, not feeling it. And that's just another way for us
Punches
to
more like
express. I
that.
know. Get away. Yeah, it's like out of a horror movie at this point, right? And so then they lock it all back up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not
and
flowing
that
anymore.
and that is ancestral. So that is also not just ancestral, but look at where you come from. Look at how your family comes. I come from a Latin, Jewish, Native family. There's a lot of emotion. Right? Telenovelas exist for a reason. Um, so there's cultural. So we have to accept that, right?
Right.
And then understand that, wow, that was handed down to me. This idea of control. I worked with someone recently from a background where they were very, very, you don't show anything. And they had this idea that this icon that they had who was very like this in their family was actually, we found out, raging inside all the time, but appeared to be the even keel one. And therefore they were attaining to be this. Meanwhile, experiencing the same rage and frustration inside of not being heard or listened. Okay. Would you like to continue inheriting that? So that's where we get into ancestor work. And this is the perfect time. We are in the time of the North. We're in the time of the ancestors, of endless time, where we sit with the ancestors, who are the ones who plant our seed of potential in our bones.
Mm.
And so sitting with them. How do you sit with your ancestors? How do you sit with people that you have over? You build an altar. And altars are different than shrines, right? They're all different things, different from prayer bundles. But I just finished a class, a 4-week class of ancestral healing work. And if you do work with me, I make you build an altar for several reasons. Number one, it is a visual representation of the relationships that you are trying to build.
Mm-hmm.
Altars have this amazing ability to collect dust. Therefore, if you are not sitting at your altar, having that conversation with your water and your candle and it's gathering dust, that's the relationship that you are having with yourself. You are gathering dust. You are not prioritizing relationships. That's why I think altars are such an amazing way to be able to check in to see, how am I doing? Am I coming and laying a table for myself and allowing myself that time to be nurtured? And a lot of people, again, come from the doingness. I do that too, right? Oh God, I have to build an altar and I have to give this and I'm so busy and I don't have time to give anymore. And then Anna Hay sits and talks to me, Grandmother Moon, and says, Marita, it's not about you. It's not about you doing things. It's about you receiving. Don't you remember? You tell people about this. You do it as well. So again, we all struggle. We're all at different parts of our journey. But can you receive? Can you receive? This is the time when everyone was inside telling stories. Therefore, you were receiving information in stories. So now you can go to the ancestors. And the way that I connect with the ancestors, because a lot of people, it's, I'm not 23, what is it, 23andMe or whatever those are.
Right.
Those things. Don't take my class if that's what you want. Go get your food. Yes, that's not what we're doing.
This is a different ancestral connection here, folks. Yeah. Not the half sibling you just found out you had. Like we're going a little deeper here.
And so we connect via the elements. Why? Well, the elements have been respected for ages and ages. They have names of gods that beyond. I think wind and fire compete for the top levels. And so we went through, and every time I opened the circle, I brought in all the names of that element when we were in that part of the circle. Because someone sat around a fire one time and told a story. Someone experienced wind. Someone knew land. Someone went across an ocean probably, right? Mm-hmm. And so our memories, our beingness is in our bodies. Our bodies are Mother Earth. The memory of who we are is through the elements.
So do you believe when we're working in our ancestral karma, we're working on healing it, that we're trying to connect with it, that we can, create barriers which holds our soul's evolution back if we don't clear this out now?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yep. And when we're working with our clients and helping move this energy and heal that ancestral karma, do you believe also that you're healing that descent karma and then the future karma of what lays ahead as well?
If they're open, right? So negotiation. If you want to do spirit work, you have to be a good negotiator, right? You have to know how to go into a bazaar and negotiate, right? And so you have to ask, if you're working through lines and you meet fulanito de tal, great-great-grandfather, and they present themselves, you have to discussion. You just don't do the work for them. They have to choose. And if they choose to heal that, then you can do that work, right? This is not about controlling things. This is not saying you got it wrong. This is having a conversation, that conversation that they maybe haven't had in eons because no one's talked to them. That's why they're stuck. I've been trying to tell you, turn the right, put the rice under, you don't listen to me, And so it's having that discussion. what I can tell you is that I have a student right now that is doing work on herself. She's very into it. She's amazing. And she has seen the ripple backwards and forward. She has seen how, because she has cleared herself, her daughter is different. Her mother is different. Her mother, who doesn't really talk to her, is now making her meals and like vegan meals and figuring out how to do this, like this 80-year-old mother who's like, I'm going to figure out how to make a vegan meal, and what it is as you clear yourself, as you forget those stories, you don't walk into every situation, every conversation with that story. You're not ready for that fight. You're not ready for someone to disrespect you. You're not ready. So there's more possibility. So sometimes just by taking the walls out of your eyes, you can open up and see more possibilities, because you're not automatically going in for the fight, for the kill, for that reaction. You're not just ready to go in. You're stepping back, and then that allows other people to have a different reaction to you. Ah, this person isn't on guard right now. Maybe I'll actually be silly and weird. Oh, you're silly and weird? I never knew you were silly and weird. I never knew that you had whimsicalness about you. You never saw it, because you had this definition of who I am to you based on our interactions and based on some story that you continued telling yourself over and over.
So it starts with us, though. I mean, that's the bottom line. You just can't sit down and be like, okay, we're going to give this a shot. These two are on here talking about this. This sounds easy. I'm just going to call in as, all of my relatives, and just see what happens. Like, we actually have to start at the core. And doing so, we can sit with ourselves and figure out what's going on here before we should even get to the great grandparents. I think we'll take a quick break, and then we will finish off this topic of being able to understand that it's just not that one quick fix when we're working on that karmic energy. Like, we really do need to work here, and then we can go back, and then we can move forward, and how it all flows together. And I love how you talked about she was healing herself, and at the same time, outwardly, those other family members and people in her life are also adjusting. Like, us healing ourselves does make a difference on them as well. So we'll take a quick break. Hang with us. We'll continue this conversation. We'll be right back after these messages. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, you know what? We could have gone through the entire break just talking, which cracks me up. Oh yeah, Benny's like, hey guys, you want to come back and finish the show, or you guys want to just chat? Yeah, more jazz hands for us. Why don't you, before we finish up our show on our talk with the ancestral karma right now, let people know where they can find you, what type of workshops or classes you're offering next year. Give them the info.
Awesome. So you can find me on Instagram at the Path of Ish. The handle, it's at the Path of IX. Ish is just the way that you say it in Mayan. I have a Facebook page, and you can find me on the interweb as well. So, and that's being updated. But yeah, I have a lot of offerings. The best way to work with me is via classes, because it also includes one-on-ones. And I have 3 main kind of focuses that you can work in. If you're interested in joining me in the circle and shamanic work and traditions of around the world that I've been taught for over 40 years, that is the Jaguar tree. And we do intensives in there, 4-week intensive. So you get everything. You kind of get almost everything doing that. It's a very deep study, and some people are going to have then do approaches to walk even deeper. So they're signing up to walk for a lifetime, and as their way in supporting cacao, Madre Cacao. I come from the Olmeca people, the original cacao people. So we are here on the big island of Hawaii, the only ones making ceremonial cacao. Hawaiian cacao is the rarest and the most costliest beans in the world. So it's a little bit of a different price than the ones that you're getting from Africa. But we are doing a ceremonial training apprenticeship starting at the end of February. Jaguar tree is the end of March, because we go equinox to equinox and things like that. And that is 6 months. So both of them are 6 months. You can choose full year with the Jaguar tree. And then in April, I'm launching something that will also be part of cacao, which is Rockstar School in its original form, what it's supposed to be. So if you are a starseed and you do not know how to exist in this world, Rockstar School is for you. And part of Rockstar School will be taught in the ceremonial cacao apprenticeship, because we're going to start working with rainbows and training rainbow warriors. We've all talked about it. People think they're rainbow warriors. Well, I come from them. So let me train you actually how to do it. So 3 main branches, all starting February, March, April. You get to walk with me from 6 months to a year or just 7 weeks. So
I love it. And I think that maybe that's a show I'd like to do with you maybe in March before you start your Rockstar schools, that people don't understand star seeds necessarily. They don't understand all of these different parts. They just throw these things out from a book they read, but they don't really fully grasp what it is that they're talking about. So I think that, if you're game, I would love to be able to do a show on
yeah,
that for
that's good.
sure.
This
Yeah.
is what I always tell the star seeds, because I want to. I'm like, at least the tacos are good here.
That's true. I'm in San Diego, so I can't get any
Hey,
better over
I
here.
know, and then everyone's like, yeah, that's true though. I'm like, yeah, at least this time around we chose a place where there's good tacos, So.
It's all that matters right now. I don't care what's in it. It's a taco. All right. So finishing up today, you guys, with the ancestral karma. It is about, having these conversations. It's about the connection. Sometimes you don't feel as though you can do this on your own, which in reality, yes, we can. We can definitely sit down with ourselves and work through this energy and then start connecting with past loved ones. For me, it's not necessarily easy as a psychic medium to be able to turn it on and be like, all right, grandma, come on over. But I have to get the ego out of the way. That's pretty much what it is for me, and being able to sit in that space and bring them through. So, kind of bringing this up, for the last about 10 minutes of the show, how would they go about kind of just starting out now of what they could do to kind of start clearing this out within themselves, and then maybe some tips on how they could connect with that great great grandfather back there?
There are things that you can do on your own. You will reach a point that you can't go further. And
Mhm.
that's just because our minds are devious. Okay. You know yourself. And therefore, that's why having someone else help you is important, because they can see through how you're hiding things. So it is important. And it also brings in the fact that we are supposed to live in community, right? We are supposed to have medicine people we support as part of our community to help us do this. So that's why we have these rules. It's supposed to be like this. Um, and so don't get frustrated if you reach that point where you can't go. That's fine, because when you've reached the end of yourself, what a gift. You can reach your hand out and understand that you are part of a greater collective that is there ready to help you. What a gift. What can you do? Take 3 breaths. Take those 3 breaths. Start there.
Mhm.
It sounds like basic, but sometimes you have to get back to basics and really connect and really have those conversations. What is my mind doing right now? And this is something that you can do throughout the day. How am I feeling? How am I thinking? How am I doing emotionally? How am I doing psychic intuitively? Right? This is something that I do throughout my whole day. I check in, not to fix myself, right? That's a different energy. I come in almost, I worked in the food industry for 20 years. You touch a table, how you doing? Can we have kindness? You want a cup of tea? I do that to myself. I start doing that to myself. I'm like, okay, Marita, how am I doing physically? Not like, oh, I was an athlete. Not like I have to fix it, throw me back in, coach. How am I doing? How's my body doing? Am I thirsty? Why do you think we run around? I know you're good at drinking water. I'm not. Not a lot of people are good. So just even checking in, there you go. Yeah. How is my body feeling right now? How is my mind feeling? You start having a relationship with yourself, because you have to understand how you operate. No one gave you an operation manual, so you got to figure it out.
Right.
Once you know how you operate, then you can have real conversations with yourself. Once you can have real conversations with yourself, right? Because everything's a relationship. Then you can have conversations of like, have you had enough of this lie? Would you like to stop living this way? We're doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Madness. Okay. Self-talk is huge. Do you encourage yourself with anger? Do you motivate yourself with not having enough because you're coming from that place of I'm not good enough? What are your motivational things that get you up, that get you charged? what's that language? Who told you that? When's the first time you heard that? That's not mine. Someone said that to me. Don't blame them, but recognize where the source from. Okay, that needs to be healed. Okay, I don't need to speak that way to myself. I'll give you a simple example. I was working out, not recently. I've just been farming, so that hasn't been happening. I now pickaxe. I cross train. I pickaxe and I do circus exercises. But I was on my Peloton. Shout out to Peloton if you'd like to send me anything. I'm just kidding. I was on my Peloton bike and I was doing Christine de Ercoli's one of her things, and she had a mantra ride, right? And I was like, I just need something different, And so I love these mantra rides because I come at it from an athlete perspective. And I heard myself, which was the voice of my coaches growing up, move your fat ass, Marita, or move whatever they said, right? Wow, that is not kind. And it's so ingrained in my body because I'm a kinesthetic learner. When you are moving and you're a kinesthetic learner and you're sweating and your mind's like, I can't handle this, so it's just your body, then you become this influx of information just comes in. So watch out what you're listening to when you're working out.
I love that. I really do. And
more open.
We are definitely, close to running out of time here, but I like where we can definitely start it out at. Sit with ourselves, have those conversations, those check-ins, ask us the direct question. Why are you living in that lie? And I know for me, this was a big year for me to sit in that space and, stop giving your power away to everybody else. Allow yourself to be in the moment for you, and track it back to where it was before. Again, give everybody your information. I love it. I hope we get to do this again, if we didn't scare you off over here. But yeah, give them again one more time real quick, how they can find you. Yeah. And you guys want to thank Dr. Pat for having us on.
Thanks, Dr. Pat. Yeah, you can find me at thepathofix.com, www.thepathofix.com. I'm on Facebook. Please follow, please like. I'm also on Instagram, and the Instagram gives you a daily Mayan rhythm of the calendar. You can find me at Cuatro Volcanes, 4 volcanoes, 5 cacao. You'll find me. Don't worry. You'll find me.
She's everywhere.
And smoke signals.
There you go. We'll do that as well, and you can find us at shadesofspirit.com. We'll also put her information on Shades of Spirit LLC, our Facebook page, for those of you tuning in on there as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. You guys all have a great new year, and we'll be back on Thursday at 11 a.m. as well. So have a great week, you guys.